Welcome to God at Work, Stories of Grace and Faith. I'm your host, Chuck Groover, and this is the first episode of 2019, or as what I'll be referring to as Season 3. And this is probably going to be the only episode like this of just general announcements and everything. I've started working on basically splitting the podcast into multiple podcasts, where God at Work is mainly going to be focused on, in one area, basically the history episodes that I had where I focused on like a person or event in church history, talking about them and basically how God pretty much used them. And 2019, I'm calling the Year of the Hymn. This year, basically, all of the episodes, I'm going to be doing them every other week instead of every week. But every other week, I'll do an episode that's focused on a hymn writer, followed up usually by one of the hymns that is well known. The hymn writer themselves may or may not be famous, but in general, the hymn that I will focus on will at least be a hymn that is probably well known to most Christians, and probably even to non-Christians have probably heard of a lot of these hymns. The kind of Bible study preaching episodes, I'm actually moving those out to a podcast where the working title right now is Unfiltered Devotions or Unfiltered Bible Studies. I'll probably, when that podcast is fully live, I will mention where you can find that at and the exact title. Also, I've been doing, for those of you that are interested in just some of what Becoming God's Man Ministries is doing in general, we had a devotional podcast that the devotions are still there, but I've changed that podcast to be more the audio from the weekly prayer breakfast that we record, which is pretty much hosted by the St. Pete Dream Center. And I'll also be using that podcast to post audio from whenever we have our conferences as well, because I know there's some people that you prefer to listen to just the audio, so you will more likely listen to it through the podcast than watching the videos, and vice versa, so there'll be kind of both places. Also, if you are watching the videos for the God at Work podcast that I would put up, I'm actually working on creating another YouTube channel to put those on, partially because I'm looking at, in total, for us having kind of 3 Amazon Fire TV channels. Right now we have the Becoming God's Man one, which is currently in submission, in process of getting reviewed to be approved or not. And after that, and once I get the Unfiltered and God at Work YouTube channels going up, I will probably work on getting Amazon Fire TV channels submitted for both of those as well. So I'll probably mention on all 3 podcasts when any of that happens. So just keep an ear out. And as I said, this is probably going to be the only episode sort of like this for this season. And it's a short episode, I know. Don't really have any video. That's why those of you that are watching on the Becoming God's Man YouTube channel, and also as I'm kind of introducing season, I guess I'd probably also put this on the God at Work channel when I get that set up. Pretty much, it's the introduction to season 3. If you're on the God at Work channel, go for the first 2 seats. For any of the video before that, go to the Becoming God's Man YouTube channel, and there's a playlist, God at Work, that has all of the video stuff for this podcast up until basically this episode. And I know this is kind of a rambling episode, but I figured rather than having too many episodes from over basically the holiday break that I take without any posting at all, I would at least give an update of what's going on, what to expect this next year. So again, this is Chuck Groover, and that's God at Work. Thank you for listening to God at Work, Stories of Grace and Faith. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at God at Work Podcast. If you have comments, suggestions, or a story you would like to be considered for the podcast, you can email us at stories@godatworkpodcast.com. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help support us, go to patreon.com/GodAtWorkPodcast, or you can also support us by leaving us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. God at Work, Stories of Grace and Faith is brought to you by Becoming God's Man Ministries and is recorded and produced by me, Chuck Groover. Theme music for God at Work is by the band 39 Stripes and can be found at facebook.com/39stripes. And again, thank you for listening.